Hello fellow cinephiles, Film Guru here. Today I'm reviewing Ford vs Ferrari. This was directed by James Mangold and stars Matt Damon, Christian Bale, Katrina Bell. The film really focuses on Henry Ford II and his company, and ultimately him trying to come up with a race car to go up against Ferrari in the Le Mans World Championship. Ultimately he enlists the help of automotive visionary Carroll Shelby, played by Matt Damon, who ultimately isn't racing anymore due to health condition and is building race cars. The only way he feels he can build this particular car is with the help of a British driver, Ken Miles, someone he's worked with previous and have been friends with for a number of years, played by Christian Bale, who ultimately rubs people the wrong way, and he's sort of out to prove himself, and Shelby gives him that opportunity. This all leads to ultimately a race between Ford and Ferrari. This is all a driving force to prove once and for all who's a better car manufacturer and who has the better cars in this particular race. I really like this film. Yes, it is sort of Oscar bait in a lot of ways, and it does follow the thing where you will see this probably nominated for things, but that didn't matter to me. I was really sucked into the story. It was a really solid and interesting story. A story I hadn't quite known a lot about. I knew who obviously Carroll Shelby was, but I never really heard of Ken Miles before this film. And what an interesting man and a fascinating character. This is based on a true story of what happened, and I think it's just a very well-made film. I really loved every moment of it. I was sucked into it from the beginning to the end, and I just felt like it was the first time in a long time this was a really good told story. I think James Mangold does a solid job here. I've been a fan of his for a number of years, crafting and creating this film, bringing these characters and this story to life. It's simply shot because it's relying on the story to carry the film and not particular shots or visual effects. It's very practical in many ways. They only put you into the racing. They put you in the cab with the driver. We see what he sees, we experience what he experiences. They have these shots outside the car itself, and we see the road coming up and the speeds that these cars are going at. And it's very immersive in that way. And the driving scenes in this are so intense and so well done. You don't know what's going to happen, and it's really, really well put together. All the acting's solid here, I think. I think Matt Damon's solid playing Carroll Shelby, and he brings an interesting element to it. And you can really tell that him and Christian Bale have a great bond. They've known each other for a number of years, and that comes across on screen. I thought Tracy Letts was solid as Henry Ford II. He has a really great moment. Shelby puts him in the car that they've built and shows him how the car works and the speed that these cars go at. Henry Ford II sort of freaks out a bit and starts crying, which adds a humorous moment. Then he sort of goes into this, heartfelt moment where he talks about he wishes his father could see what they've been able to accomplish. And it's a really powerful moment. So he sort of has some solid moments in it as well. Josh Lucas plays sort of an asshole bad guy, which we've seen him play before. And he does this well to a T. And this is a character you really hate. It's a character you want to see get punched in the face. Noah Loop in this plays Ken Miller's son. And every time I see him, he gets better and better. I think he really suits this role. He gets to do his normal English accent, and he sort of feels very believable. He feels like a young kid looking up to his father, and I really like that. Katrina Bell is in it from Outlander, who plays Molly Miles. She's really great. She's the center of the film. She's the heart of the film. She's really what keeps Ken Mills grounded. And she gives a great contrast with him and is a very strong character. And it's a kind of love story between her and Ken Miles that you see in older films. You don't see too much anymore, and I really like that part of it. By far, the best character in this and the best performance is Christian Bale. An actor who's just at the top of his game, who can't seem to do anything wrong. His performances get better and better and better with each film that he does. To go from playing Dick Cheney to going into playing Ken Mills, and he lost all that weight and he's very skinny, is just fantastic in itself. But he's very believable and he's humorous. I like the English accent that he has in the film. I like the type of person they portray Ken Miles as, this family man, but he races, that's his thing, that's what he does well. But he knows that if he can't earn money from it, he needs to find a job to support his family. He's a very driven sort of character, very strong. And when things don't go quite his way or he gets treated badly, he ultimately takes it on board and takes it inside and then sort of lets it go. But you can see that it has an effect on him. He gives such a great performance in this. He's the part of the film that really sucked me in. His story was the most interesting, and to see him driving you're on the edge of your seat. It's fantastic. Mangold really puts you in the driver's seat in this film, and I really love that. But he deserves a nomination for this. What a performance that he gives. He's such a brilliant actor and gives a great performance. The character is really interesting. He breathes such life into it. He pays homage to the original Ken Miles in many ways. He's a character you just want to see win. You want to see him overcome these things. And it doesn't go in the traditional way where, you know, like, he's an underdog and he rises up and everything's fine. There's struggles and things that go along in this particular journey for the character. He starts in one place and ends up in somewhere else. And he sort of humbles himself along the way. Driving is something he was born to do, and this really comes across in this film. He's so fantastic. I was really blown away by his performance. Overall, it's just a very solid and well-made film. The only issue that I had with it, the only thing I would say about it is I felt the Ken Miles character was much more interesting than the Carroll Shelby character. Shelby is important to the story, and the bond between Shelby and Miles was very strong and showed how they worked well together, even though they struggled and you know, butted heads at times. And that comes across in this. I would have rather seen much more of Ken Miles and his story and how he ended up where he did. But I know that that's not the story they're trying to tell. Didn't weigh the film down, it just wasn't as interesting, I didn't think. The scenes I really liked in this film is where we first meet Ken Miles and we find the sort of person he is. He clashes with people. He doesn't play the game very well. He can be aggressive, but damn, is he a great driver. And when we get to see him drive, it's just electrifying and it's just fantastic. And I love these scenes so much. The other scenes I really liked is he's ultimately not able to go and race to begin with in the car he's sort of been building. So he's in this hangar building other cars at the Shelby, you know, car manufacturer, and he's listening to the race on the radio. And this sort of sets up that he doesn't want to, he really wants to be part of it, but he acts like he doesn't, and he gets to hear the race, and we get to hear what he thinks of it. And ultimately, with all this struggle, his wife comes in with a picnic basket, and they just share this moment. She changes the station, she puts on music, they dance and share a beer, and it's just such a beautiful moment. I really love this, and this cements the characters they are and the relationship they have in many ways. Other scenes I liked is you know, Shelby and Miles get into a fight, and you can tell it's like two friends fighting, and it's very humorous, and they sort of beat each other up in a humorous way. And, you know, Molly's just sitting there watching this unfold, and I really like that scene. It sort of sets up the friendship that these two men have, the fights that they have, and how Molly just watches her husband and his friend acting like children, and she's sitting in this chair. It's really, really funny and great scene, and you see that a lot in the trailer. And obviously the other parts that are really brilliant is the third act, the last half of the film is just fantastic. All the car racing stuff is brilliant. Final thoughts. This film is really about friendship and relationships and the bonds that form people, whether it's personal with Ken Miles and Molly and his son, and the bond between Miles and Shelby is really strong as well. You can tell they're friends, they've known each other a long time, they do butt heads at times, but they ultimately just try and push each other to get the best out of each other. For me, the best thing about this film is it's a story. It's telling a story. It's relying on the story to carry the film, and this is refreshing in that regard. It goes back to the essence of storytelling and what's important about storytelling. This is definitely going on my top films of the year. I'm going to give Ford vs Ferrari 4.5 out of 5. I thought this was a solid and well-made story, interesting characters, and it's a film that I think is a real crowd pleaser and people get a lot out of. Anyway, that's all from me today. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please hit subscribe down the bottom. Follow me on Facebook and Twitter. Otherwise, until next time, enjoy the movies.